Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Every now and then I get a real surprise.
I just got surprised that you had something to say as soon as I pressed record.
Oh, well, I was just standing here thinking about how surprised I was by today's guest.
Yes. I won't say what I said earlier this morning.
I'm pretty sure that he'd expect you to say it quite directly, actually.
Well, I must admit, and g'day, Steve. Thanks for today's episode, mate. I wasn't exactly sure where this one would go because I had this idea in my head that we were going to be talking, SEO and copywriting and all the usual, all the snoozeworthy stuff that is really important. And we've had lots of guests on the show that have talked about that in non-snoozeworthy ways.
True.
But I just had my doubts. But holy shit, was I wrong?
We were wrong.
Today's episode's a cracker.
We have a lot of fun on today's episode, and my neck's really sore, but I'm not going to tell you why. You'll have to listen to the end to find out.
Is that because Michelle came out and made
It is, but shh, don't tell everyone.
Anyway, I would rate today's interview from a podcaster's perspective as one of my top 10 guest interviews I've ever done.
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's, yeah. We're not going to say anything. We're just going to let people listen.
Yeah, hook in. All right, we're chatting to Stephen Lewis from Taleist. It's got nothing to do with three blind mice and the woman that...
That's terrible.
Oh, well, it is Friday. It's time for a bit of a dad joke or an inappropriate pun. But I think Stephen's probably got an A-grade pun game compared to mine, Coxie.
I hope so.
Stephen, welcome to the show, mate.
I've definitely got an A-grade dad joke line, so I can't promise there won't be any.
Yes. Now, is it Stephen? Is it Steve? Is it Steve-O?
Stephen's fine. Steve's also all right. I have had the odd Steve-O or the odd Stevie. I answered to all of it. Or Simon.
Or Simon.
There's something about the name Stephen. People transpose it in their heads and you become Simon. And I'm like, I know you're talking to me and I'm never talking to you again. So let's go.
Yeah, that's right.
I get Michelle.
Michelle from Nicole.
All the time. Yeah.
Well, I get Wayne and Warren.
Is that just because your alternative, profile online is Michelle?
Yeah. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Is that
I had a boss once who used to masquerade online as a lesbian, and he was like 5'5" Scottish guy.
Oh, that's
but
hilarious.
He felt it was a really good way to meet ladies.
He
called himself Cherry.
Cherry.
Dear.
Was he ripe?
Oh, Coxie's having a
There
go.
we
Coxie's
go.
having a go. So that's not a bad segue into what Steve's actually here to talk to us about. No. Is the whole language thing, right? The plays on words and the puns and the dad jokes.
God, you're on fire.
Oh yeah, I'm onto my second coffee for today. You wait till I hit number 5. But this, I love language. I love the way it gets used in different contexts and sometimes out of context.
Yes.
Sadly, most people take me out of context. But business these days is all about websites and copy and blogs and posting to social. And I think a lot of us do it to an unconscious formula that, to be honest, is boring as bat droppings.
Mm-hmm.
And so Steve-O is actually here to talk to us today.
You can call me Michelle.
So we're going to talk to Michelle Steve-O today about I guess, in my words, Steve, copy that actually converts. Would that be fair, mate?
That's absolutely right. And just, conversion meaning you get somebody to do what you want them to do. Mm. Which could be buy now if you were an e-commerce business, but even an e-commerce business like Amazon has other conversions, like how long do you spend on the page? So if you've got a website and people are coming to it and spending less than 10 seconds on it, you might consider that the conversion is getting them over that 10-second threshold, for instance, if you're looking at your stats. But in the case of your listeners, a conversion really is going to be somebody picks up the phone.
Awesome. So before we dive into all the techo stuff and how to actually do that, so there you go, listeners, you're going to have to stick around for a bit longer.
Oh, you've opened a loop, as we say in copywriting.
Yeah, there you go. So tell us a bit about yourself, Steve. How did you come to be doing this, mate? I mean, there must be a bazillion people playing in your pond, as it were, but give us some backstory so our listeners know who the heck we're talking to, mate.
Well, I grew up in Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, I was a journalist for the newspaper there, the South China Morning Post. And the thing about Hong Kong is if you are a native English speaker and you have a visa that allows you to work for anybody and you can write, you're going to get phone calls from people who need writing in English done. So I found myself doing what I then called copywriting, which I realize now really wasn't, for companies like Intel and Microsoft and people like that. And then I moved to Australia and, to cut out a lot of shit in the middle, I ended up starting a copywriting agency because it's something people do incredibly badly. So generally you start a business, you've got a to-do list. The to-do list says, get website. So you get a website and 2 years later you think, shit, shouldn't that website have done something? Maybe like the phone should have rung or I should have got an email at some point. And it's because you don't say the right things on your website. And I just love making that change for people. It's a real, I hate the word passion, but let's say passion.
Cool. So that was just seamless and sounded like such a natural progression. I'm actually interested, Steve, you said you left out a bunch of shit in the middle. What happened in the middle there?
Well, in the middle, I moved to Australia, and Australia needs more journalists, like it needs holes in the head, right? You've grown a few; they're very good. So I had to reinvent myself as a PR person. So I ended up being a PR person for a law firm.
Geez, that must have been riveting, mate.
It was absolutely. You just fly out of bed in the morning. I couldn't wait.
Hang on. Have you got your sarcasm font stuck on, mate?
My favorite, just a brief story to give you some context of the kind of people I was working with. There was a partner there, and in a law firm, a partner is God, but certainly in their own mind at any time, whether they're in a law firm or not.
G'day to all the lawyers listening to the show.
Yeah, and this guy said to me, I'm going to London next week, Stephen. Could you call the Times and let them know that I'm coming?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that is the level of ego.
Wow.
Call the Times and let them know Doug is on the plane. They might want to meet me at the airport. Yeah.
Oh,
I love it.
I don't know, but I love it.
I just want to be in a position, sorry, Steve, where I can actually feel like I should say that to somebody.
Oh, you never would.
Call the Times.
Hey, Coxie,
call the Times.
Call the Courier Mail and tell them I'm coming to Brisbane.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
And that, so they very kindly sponsored me for my permanent residence, which I got, which was fabulous. And a month later, I left. Thank you for the visa.
Yes.
And then I started a social media agency, which in 2005, which was an incredibly stupid time to start a social media agency.
Yes.
That was a year before there was a Twitter.
Yeah.
You couldn't get a Facebook account unless you were in a university in the US. So it was a little bit early, right? And I started podcasting around the same time. So you'd spend a lot of time with people saying, what's a podcast? And I bet you still have people. So if you can imagine 2005, what's a podcast? It's how I lost my hair, telling people what a podcast is.
So from there, you're now, well, loosely, and we've probably skipped out a bunch of other stuff by the sounds of it, mate.
Then I went to work for AMP, which after the Royal Commission, you find out it's a little bit like working, for a pizza shop owned by the mob, and you didn't know it was owned by the mob.
Yeah.
So, I was innocent of all charges, but I did recognize some names at the Royal Commission. I had some meetings with some of those people.
Wow.
I didn't realize what they were doing. Doesn't sound like they realized what they were doing either. So, we were all in good company. And then I started this agency probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. And so as far as what you do, I mean, I've probably taken the mick a little bit, but in more serious terms that our listeners can understand, Stephen, what does Taleist do?
It's a lot more research than you would think. It's a lot more research than writing. So 80% of what we do is understanding what is your business? What do your clients and customers think your business is, which is generally not the same thing. The business you think you have and the business your clients think you have, totally different. And we find out what it is that your clients want, what it is that you do that matches that need. And then we write words that get that across. And the idea is, it's the classic duck paddling, furiously under the surface. All the creative bullshit taglines, fucking innovative, that is not what people want to read. So we do not write, 27-word sentences about how bloody innovative you are. We write under 20-word sentences about what you actually do. That is what your customer wants. So in the world of your listeners, for instance, one of the things that your customers most want is to know that you'll keep the site tidy. And apart from the websites we've written, and I'm not saying there aren't any, but I've looked at a lot of them over the years doing the research, nobody says, I keep your site tidy. Because I don't think it's important. Either because they don't keep the site tidy, right? It would be a total lie. Or they keep the site tidy and they think that's just natural. And of course they do. And why would they bother to tell you that they do?
Yeah.
But people really want to know that you're going to keep the site tidy. So we write that kind of stuff. Or to take it out of your orbit, for instance, dentists, the number one thing people want to know is that the dentist and their team will be friendly. The number one thing dentists want to talk about is being pain-free. And unfortunately, you can't write about being pain-free without using the word pain. So you should just shut up. No dentist is going to say, I only do painful dentistry. And you're like, oh, no, I better go to another website for the one who does pain-free dentistry because this guy is a real yanker. So it's people writing the wrong thing. So it's not that the writing has to be pretty. The writing just has to say what you do.
That's a very interesting concept. Sorry, Woz.
No, you jump in.
It's just so different to, I'm a blogger, so what I write is big and fluffy, and sure, it has those integral sentences as part of what I'm writing, but it's big and it's fluffy and it's pretty and it makes people feel good, as well as telling them what I feel they need to hear at the stage we were in the business that we were. Mine started out, we were builders, we needed to attract clients for a particular niche. It worked really well. It took a while. It's not a quick process, but it got us in front of the right people. But mine was fluffy. It wasn't short and concise. So it's an interesting concept that you're introducing.
Well, and it doesn't we had a client in Brisbane who builds, $2 million custom homes. So his existing website was full of how innovative they are. And I said to him, if you told your customers that you use the same methods the Egyptians used to build the pyramids, they'd go, well, those have been standing for 6,000 years. That sound like a pretty rock-solid methodology to me. I love it. They don't care if you're innovative.
No.
Nobody goes, I want an innovative house. I want you to try something really different and let's see if it stands up. Let's go. Go nuts. Try no foundations. Let's see what we can do. Slab, forget it. Just build it on the beach.
Yeah.
So, but people want to talk about innovative. They want to talk about passion, leverage, journey, bullshit words that don't mean anything. For builders, the number one thing that people want to know is you're not going to let me make a catastrophic mistake.
Absolutely.
That is what they want to know from your website.
Where do you think this shitty language, business language and writing style has come from, Steve?
Idiots who want to sound clever.
I'm just thinking about some of the stuff that I've written over the years.
I know, I can put my hand up for that one.
I've tried to sound really clever.
I had a colleague, when I worked for AMP, she said to me, Stephen, we need to shift our mindset to a different paradigm. And I said to her, Trudy, what really concerns me is you found that easier to say than we need to think differently. What happened to you in your life that you talk this way? But generally, it is people who've picked up a little lingo from somebody else. They think it sounds clever. It makes them sound clever. And, I still remember one of my first meetings at the law firm with the marketing people. And I was new to marketing because I've been a journalist. I'm in a meeting. I don't understand a word they're saying. I think, okay, be brave, put your hand up and say, look, I'm sorry. I'm new to Australia. I'm new to this industry. I don't understand what you're saying. And it was a really embarrassing moment. because they didn't understand what they were saying, so they
Yes.
couldn't explain it to me. And I'm like, I will never again ask a question or take a note in a meeting because none of you is saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. The noise in these meetings. But what I love about Australia is everyone takes a water bottle to a meeting because we're going to dehydrate in 45 minutes.
We are.
You can't go to a meeting without a Camelback and a Hydro straw, you know, 'cause, we could be in this room for 45 minutes.
We're a little
We're gonna dry
precious
out
in
like
Australia.
prunes.
Well, I'm just
Very delicate.
I'm just looking at the desk here in front of us as you take a sip
sip
of
of
your
water.
glass of water.
I am in my house.
and it's fairly warm here in Toowoomba, but apart from that, as podcasters, there's nothing worse than having sticky throat syndrome.
No, it's
so
terrible.
Well, down here, of course, we're on fire, so
Yeah.
can't even open the windows.
It's
welcome
terrible,
to
isn't it?
Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I think part of the problem that I see certainly with that is we see a lot of our members and clients, they get paralyzed when it comes to writing content because they think they can't do it because they've seen all these flowery 30-word sentences that they think they have to write that way to sound good to their clients. And they go, well, I can't write. It's like, can you talk? Yeah.
Well, you know, that's right. And it's not what people want. And in my opinion, you know, well, I mean, for us, tradies make the best clients because they're naturally no bullshit and they don't want to fuck around.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get the job done. They sign off on the copy. You know, generally they're great clients because they say, well, I couldn't have done that. I see that you've done it well. Thanks very much. Let's go. Which is like me. I mean, I can't change the washer on a tap. So I'm not going to stand next to you while you do it, telling you how I think it should be done. And I think tradies reciprocate with that. They don't stand around telling you how they think the copywriting should be done. They get that you're doing what you're good at. So I can't do any of the real man things, but I can do the writing things. It's a really good exchange.
You're not feeling emasculated, are you, Stephen?
Well, I have said often to my wife, it is a really good thing that my manhood is not tied up in my ability to do anything useful because I just can't. Like, you know, we had an electrician come around and I could just see on his face that the fact that I didn't understand a word he was saying was just really puzzling to him. I don't know anything about sport and I don't know how things work. Like, that's really it. But I recognise my limitations.
But you can talk real proper, so that's good, mate.
That's right. I sound proper.
I'm just in the world of what we do as mentors and coaches and educators. I constantly see conversations around us where people don't use plain language and people switch off. So I guess I'm just supporting exactly what you're saying and maybe then taking it to a tradie level. If I come into a room and I tell you in a fluffy way that I'm going to change your life, you're not going to hear what I'm saying because 9 times out of 10 you won't understand the words that I'm using. But if I walk into the room and I tell you I'm going to make changes in your business that will change your life, it's done. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm thinking about our website now, and I think we should change our header bar to "We'll change your fucking life."
Yes.
Like, it's just
We'll get rid of your stress.
That's right. Call Michelle.
Yeah.
She'll be around. Call 1-800-MICHELLE. She'll change your life.
I will.
I reckon our website traffic would skyrocket.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I used to run back in the really early days of the internet. I used to run a website for a theatre company, and we were doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and we were doing a little dinner theatre play called The Opposite Sex, and our traffic went through the roof.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, it's because we're doing a free ticket giveaway. Like, we've really, hit the nail on the head. And in those days, Google was obviously not as sophisticated as it is today. And the number one search term that was bringing people to our website was free dwarf sex.
Yes. I've heard stories like this so often.
Context is an
amazing
amazing thing, isn't it?
I mean, not only is dwarf sex your thing, fair enough, but you're so bloody cheap. You're not free to pay the dwarves to fill your need. Like, how like the little guys are like working really hard to provide entertainment, and you can't throw them $1.
That's a whole nother subset of human people, isn't it, really?
Oh dear, we're managing
you
to
need clear copywriting.
You do.
Our this is one of our, or was meant to be one of our Tuesday
No,
episodes.
it's definitely
which
a
are
Friday.
all like serious and technical.
Free dwarf sex is
and
a Friday thing. Little something for the weekend.
We save that for the end of the week.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, I suppose there'll be a lot of tradies listening to this that are thinking, okay, well, that's all well and good. You want me to speak in plain language, and that's going to get my customers to understand what the hell it is I do. But I suspect a lot of them will still be sitting there going, but how? Like, what do I say about plumbing and taps or PowerPoints that's actually going to cut through all the bullshit that's out there in copy land?
Well, I think the number one thing you want to know is that your target punter most likely doesn't want to know anything about plumbing. They want to know that you know about plumbing. So the last plumber's website that we wrote, it was all about, again, you're looking for what is unique about your client. And in his case, it was he did everything from the street through the garden, right through the house. And he wasn't interested in doing less than that. So you really wanted to make super clear, these are the jobs I do. And I have my own equipment and I don't rent equipment. And the benefit of that, and this is where you have to be really good, what is the benefit of the way that you do it? And in his case, it's his brother drove the digger thing. So I'm very technical, okay? So I'm probably losing people at this point.
No, this is a good ad for your services, mate. Yeah. The digger thing. We have digger things and...
Digger thing. Well, one of the things about writing is you get through so many topics in so much time. Like at the time, I was an absolute expert. I've just written a site for people who sweat excessively. Oh, so if you want to know anything about hyperhidrosis, I'm your man. I can tell you about the surgery, the sympathetic nervous chain. But the plumber's website was a while ago, and I can't remember the name of the digger thing. But his brother drove it. And the benefit was my brother is highly trained. He's trained in my way of doing it. He dig, because apparently this was what I came to understand was if you just get some guy to dig, he may not dig to your specifications in the way that you want it to be. So it's going to take longer. You, the plumber, are going to have to jump into the trench and do remedial work that you don't have to do when his brother's driving it because his brother's dug it the way the plumber needs it. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff goes into the website, probably not at that kind of length. So his target client, being a developer or a builder, goes, you are so speaking my language because I've had plumbers on site for extra time because the trench, the whatever.
Yep.
And I get that you take total responsibility. And he had a whole philosophy about why he wanted to do that, why he cared, why he was a plumber, not an electrician. Like he had a whole thing. And that was what we wanted to get across. That if you wanted somebody who really cares about what he does, this is the guy. And here's the proof of that. And that's what people are looking for, proof. So the whole my brother drives the digger is proof that you care about it, you've thought about your systems, rather than just saying, we have great systems. Anybody can say we have great systems, but not everyone can say, I bought my brother a digger.
What are great systems, really?
I know.
What are they?
It's such a...
well, it's like
it's ambiguous.
I've got great systems, brilliant. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
I don't.
Don't care.
You care how Australia Post gets the letter to your door. No, you don't. No. They've got great systems. Good. When will I get my letter?
Yeah. That's all that matters.
It almost goes back to some of the old school sales training I did back in the 90s as a building rep around features, advantages and benefits. And a lot of copy talks about features. We have these systems and we've been in business for this long and they're all aspects of a business. But I think a lot of us forget to talk about the benefit in terms of, well, as the customer, what's that going to do for me? I mean,
that's exactly right.
We've had some meetings recently with people pitching us to be partners of Tradies in Business, and I'm at the stage where I'm actually starting to ask them, so what's in it for us? Because they're talking about what they can do and what they're going to offer and how they do what they do, and that's great and that's really important. But what's in it for me?
I get emails from copywriters all the time who want to know if we've got any work for them, and it is hilarious how many of them are like, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a the other. I'm like, your copywriting is shit already. If you were writing a covering letter to a copywriter you wanted to employ you, would you not do some fucking copywriting in it? But, no, it's just, I want this, I want that, I don't care. And that's the same with your clients. So what is the benefit? So if you do it faster, what is the benefit to the person? Don't just say we're super speedy plumbers. What's the benefit to the person?
One of the challenges. Well, let me ask the question instead of making a statement, Stephen. What do you think are some of the challenges for tradies in particular to get into that headspace, to get out of the here's all about me and all about plumbing and all about the products we use and all about our systems? Is there something they can do, or do you have a 4.3 step process to get to get to that? But how can they break that thinking of the what and get more into the how does that actually relevant for a consumer? Because we're not customers of our own businesses, right? So it's hard for us to think along those lines.
What I would say is that firstly, there's a mindset issue, because I don't think any of the tradie or builder clients that we've had finish school. So the guy in Brisbane, for instance, who now builds $2 million houses, he left school, I think it was 13, he told me, or maybe it was 50. I mean, it was very, very young. And I know some of them find that to be a handicap, but that to me is a massive advantage, because you have not had your rough edges smoothed over by bullshit. My son finished the HSC. I couldn't help him with his homework because I couldn't understand the questions, because they were written in this dense, nonsensical language. So you haven't had that. So that's great, because that doesn't help anybody, that complicated stuff. So you're actually, in my opinion, at a real advantage over a lot of people. Secondly, as you said earlier, Warwick, you already go into people's houses and sell this to them. So what makes their eyes light up? That is the thing that you need to be thinking about. When you're talking to somebody and you're saying stuff and, their arms are folded and their shoulders are hunched, and what is the bit that makes them go, oh, and you're like, I got the sale. I know you're going to, let me do this work. That's the stuff that should be on your website, so that you're getting that across to all the people who are thinking about picking up the phone and calling you.
So my next question was going to be about research, but you've actually already started talking to that point, and the way that tradies can do their own research to understand what it is their customers want to know. You're right, it's that point at which their body language relaxes and you can see, okay, I've said the right thing, we're going in the right direction.
Well, you're unlikely to be the first electrician somebody's ever dealt with. So a really good question is, what have the other electricians done that has either pissed you off or delighted you? And people will have stories, right? They'll be like, oh, well, the other guy was amazing because, I don't know, he made me a cup of coffee. Oh, okay, right. Or the other guy was amazing because he tidied up. That's something you'll hear all the time.
Yes.
People love the tradie who gets out the dustpan and brush afterwards. They just think that's the chocolate on the pillow, right? So what are those things? Because people will tell you. And they'll certainly tell you what pissed them off.
Yeah.
The other thing that you would find really helpful, so we do this all the time, read the reviews of your competitors. What do people love and what did they hate? And, you'll see the dustpan and brush, and you'll see the, noisy or kept asking me for extra money, that kind of stuff, bad communication. Those are all the things that you'll see all the time. And that's what you need to get across in your copy, for instance. So we did the first website I did for a builder, we did a lot of research. And the stuff that was coming up was they push for more payment. The quote never seems to be the quote. People have heard horror stories about builders walking off jobs and holding them hostage. So if you can get across that you don't do those things, not by saying, I never walk off the job in a huff. That's not going to do it. You've got to find a slightly cleverer way to do it than that.
That's a bit too plain speaking.
Yeah, that's right. I will not hold you hostage. That kind of stuff. But the way that you'd get across that is testimonials and so on. Social proof, hugely important.
Probably brings up another great point to which I'm sure you can help us speak about, and that's reviews and testimonials, and just how empowering or impactful they are for a business. Either way.
Huge.
They can be very negative or very positive, or as we talk about very frequently, even when you get a negative one, it's actually really positive for your business in so many ways. It's a real shift in the way we as consumers...
A mindset shift?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not going to go there. Stop
You're shifting your mindset to a different paradigm.
Dead set. I'm standing here thinking... Fuck, I can't say that word. He's going to burn me on that.
Say it anyway.
No paradigm shifts, no nothing.
So,
I mean, I had, to your point, Nick, I had a gym nearby. You know, I mean, as you can tell, I'm naturally beefy, so I don't need to go to the gym anymore. But I did go to the gym very briefly, and this gym near me had this great review from this guy saying, "I'm a power lifter, and I get the weights up, and I'm the guy who drops them." And I was assured when signing up for this gym that they were going to be okay with that, and then they weren't okay with it, and they told me if I kept dropping the weights, they were going to kick me out of the gym. And I'm like, this is a suburban women in lycra gym. Nobody told you could throw the weights up in the air, and don't be nuts. And it was a great review. And I said that to the owner of the gym. I said, because it was authentic. You had great reviews from people. They could all have been made up. And then you had this shitty review from a guy I wouldn't want to be at the gym with.
right.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my headphones on, listening to a dainty podcast. I don't need you over there throwing metal, right? So it helps because sometimes the review, one, you can tell the reviewer is nuts.
Yes.
Sometimes the thing that somebody didn't like is something you would like. Like, how many times have you read a review that says too many noisy children by the pool, and you think, great, I've got noisy children. Fantastic. No one's going to hear them above the din of the other children. Love it. But you must ask for reviews. Like, people think their clients will do it. We ask after every job, please, will you give us a review? Here is the link to leave the review. And I would say 1 in 10 people do it. You know, it's not that they're unhappy. I mean, if they're unhappy, they could leave an unhappy review. People just can't be asked. And so if you don't ask, if that's what you get by asking, imagine how many you're missing by not even asking in the first place.
So very true.
It is. And I'm starting to see evidence that people pay more attention to how many reviews there are, almost as much or more than the star rating itself. It could be 4.2 stars for a business, and they've got 79 reviews, and someone else is 5 stars and they've got 5 reviews. They'll pick the first one because there's more reviews.
Well, I think that's right. So, I mean, that and that's a really good point. If you have reviews, and you probably do, everybody does, but you've only got 4 of them, it looks like you're Norman no clients, right? It is not a good. That is not a good look. So you need to be focusing on that hard, I would say, and they're good for your SEO. You know, Google loves it that you're getting reviews. I mean, something we haven't talked about that has nothing to do with words, which may appeal to your better looking listeners. People want to see your photograph.
Oh, yes. Hello. How often do we say this?
You love your photo being everywhere, don't you, Coxie?
Oh, yes. I like to throw it around, put
Especially
it out
when
there.
I capture the video thumbnail.
I
and
know,
you've got
always.
I have had clients who said to me, people called and said, we like the photo. Like, they literally have said when they picked up the phone, we like the look of you. You looked honest. I mean, he does look honest. And he is honest. I'm sitting in a house he built. And it's still here. So, you know, he's done good work. And I took his photo, and people have literally commented on it. It's one of the biggest proof points, because any fool can copy and paste work that somebody else did from a Google image search and put it on a website. But a photo of you, I don't know, working outside it makes it not photoshopped in front of the Taj Mahal. Is going to make you look more credible. You're actually working. You know, you're doing it. Brand your vehicle. It all matters.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's real. Our tradies are really frightened about getting in front of the camera, yet it's something we harp on about all the time. They need to be able to see who you are. They need to know. And so much of what we're doing online before the client even comes to us is about earning their trust. And when they can see your face, they automatically start to trust you more. It's such a simple
tip. If
tip.
you're dealing with residential clients, they're coming into your house.
Yes.
So I've got a client who's an antique dealer. So you are literally phoning somebody up and saying, I have $100,000 worth of stuff. Here's my address.
Yeah.
You've got to build a lot of trust.
That's right.
Because, you know, he also hangs pictures. And apparently many people, I mean, obviously I have millions of dollars of paintings myself, so I know this.
I can see them on the wall behind you, mate.
Oh, it's like the Louvre in here. Like, occasionally we let the neighbours in just, to a gold coin donation, and they can come and see the work. But they don't have insurance. Because if you have insurance, there's paperwork that says where these paintings live, and people pay insurance company or people who work at insurance companies to let them know where the good stuff is. So my client is coming into your house to see all of that. And the photograph on the website, he gets a lot of comment on that. I mean, the photograph's 15 years old. He gets a little bit of comment occasionally about that as well. He has actually had sort of old ladies say, "You're not as young as you look in the picture."
So he's a catfish. He's catfishing. There you are.
That's right, exactly.
Let's call it what it is. He's catfishing his clients.
But that, and maybe a little off topic, but video is so massive for tradies because of that. And we have members that reluctantly and kicking and screaming do their first video, and it gets engagement. Fancy that.
I know.
And then they do their next one and their next one. And we've
grows.
got members that are just doing, pretty basic, regular video about what's going on in the workshop or out on site today. And some of them are naturally funny, and that's awesome. But some of the videos aren't that great, and they're killing it because people can see them, they can see how they talk, their body language, and it's exactly as you're saying, mate. It's like, oh, he seems like a good guy or an honest guy or a no bullshit kind of a guy or girl.
Well, you are in, all of your listeners are in industries where people are expecting to be ripped off because, they don't know about it. People who are less secure about their manhood than I am are also feeling inadequate because they can't do it themselves.
Yes.
Yep.
And they think they should, and their dad could have done it, or their granddad, built the whole bloody log cabin all by himself and wired it, and, so you're dealing with a lot of stuff there that you need to be overcoming, or you don't, right? You can go with the thing that someone's going to hit Google, they're going to find 6 tradespeople, and they're going to, make 6 phone calls. Or you can go, well, what if I could go straight to the top of that pile? What if they didn't even phone the other 5 in the first place because I answered all their questions and they went, this person is clearly the Rolls Royce of my needs. So depending on how big the ticket item is, so with a builder, for instance, you always know someone's going to go for extra quotes. So the job of your website is to get you into the 3 that they meet with. That's the most that your website can do, and that's what it's there for. Trades-wise, you've got a really good chance of being the only person they call if you look like the Rolls Royce, not in terms of expense, obviously, but that's the other thing. You can look too cheap as well.
Yes, you can.
That's a big thing. It's not about whether you're looking expensive or cheap. It's about who is my target market, what are they willing to pay, and what are they going to think when they look at a cheap-ass website. I mean, one, if you're expensive and you've got a cheap-ass website, that's really incongruous. But also, if your website's too cheap anyway, somebody might be fearful. If I've got somebody coming into, like, one thing my builder's electrician did not do very well was go and buy my plug sockets from China, like they're no brand, whatever. And, they failed about a year in. And I got an electrician to come and replace them, not the same electrician, strangely enough. And my big thing was, I've got 2 small children. I want the best plug sockets. I want the best wiring. I don't want the guy whose website looks like, yeah, sure, I'm an electrician today, but tomorrow I'm digging ditches, and next day I'll be your plumber. What do you need? I don't want that guy. I want the guy who's coming to make my family safe.
Absolutely.
And websites and copy is just one of the early steps in that whole sales process of communicating with the right customers, so that if you're a tight ass customer that only wants the Chinese generic PowerPoints, then great, come work with me. But my copy should actually be, I guess, filtering out the wrong customers for my business.
Well, and that's perfect, because if you're somebody, if you're a tradesperson who is on the tools, you don't need the stupid phone call distracting you from the work that you're actually doing. Last year we went through a branding exercise for Taleist and got a whole, we got a whole brand design, and brand is more than logos. It's the colors, it's the font, it's the tone of voice, it's everything we put on the website. And the best thing that has done for me is I no longer get phone calls from fuckwits with a dream. Like that.
Yes.
I better not ring you up after we hang up this call then, mate.
I used to get phone calls from people like, I'm launching an online business in 2 weeks. I need a website. I need a design, a website, and copy. In 2 weeks, I'd say to them, you're launching an online business. Yes, I am. And it's online only. Yes, I'm selling e-commerce. I'm selling online. And you've waited until 2 weeks before you want to launch to get the actual website going. and you budgeted $1,500 for it. Yes. What can you do? Nothing.
Yep. See you later.
But I'll end up an hour on the phone with that person because I'm laughing with you, but actually it's some poor person who's about to sink $1,500 they probably don't really have into a website, that's going to end up being built offshore by someone who doesn't care, and it won't work. And I feel bad, and I spend an hour giving free advice. So I'd rather not get the phone call. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I see our members do similar things with their websites. There's some maybe cobbled together thing that's in Wix, and it doesn't have a blog, and there's no free quote button or book now, or there's no about page. It's like, and they paid $1,000 for it from someone who maybe used to be a tradie, and it's, by tradies for tradies bullshit. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for them. And they haven't thought through the strategy behind it, how they're going to use their website, what other marketing are they going to do. So anyway, I'll stop.
The most important, probably, obviously every website has a homepage, but the second most visited page on any website, generally rule of thumb, will be the About Us page.
Absolutely.
People want to know who you are. But the trick with an About Us page is that you don't make, it's not about you. You've got to work, what is their problem and how do you solve it? I don't care if you windsurf at the weekends, right? I'm not, you're coming to do my plumbing. We're not going surfing together. Like, that's not, that's not the goal. So, that kind of stuff, I've got 9 kids, whatever, that might be relevant. But you've really got to think about, what is my brand? What am I saying to somebody? But, if I think again about my Queensland builder, he started sweeping. His uncle was a developer. He started sweeping the floor. That's a great story, right? I didn't just blow in from nowhere. I started with my sleeves rolled up, sweeping floors and doing whatever. And then I became a carpenter, and then I had a gang of my own. It's a great story about why I'm the guy, because as we all know, as I have learned, and you guys would already know, a builder is a project manager.
Yep. So
you can come into building having never touched a tool, right? Thank God it's a Friday podcast. So
I'm going to make it a Tuesday one just for fun.
No.
You can go and study project management at uni, and you can get your builder's license, and you can be a builder despite the fact that you, like me, couldn't change the washer on a tap. Or you can have done a carpentry apprentice, and you can have got your own gang of carpenters, and you can have built, frames by headlight, which is what this guy did. And when I read that, I'd rather have you do it than the guy who went to, apologies to your listeners who are project managers who went to uni. If I had a client who's a project manager who went to uni, I'd be finding the benefits, to go back to that point, of what are the benefits of my project management experience to you, the punter. Yes. And then I'd be subtly slagging off the guy who did the apprenticeship and, became a builder. Like you go with whatever your strengths are.
Because everybody has their own flavour, and some people want the project manager. That's the sort of customer that is looking for that sort of business, and that business needs to be understanding that that's who they want to attract, and not guys like you who want the calloused hands and the worked from the ground up kind of a builder. Well,
to go to what Nick was saying earlier, the one of my clients drives a McLaren, doesn't turn up to jobs in his McLaren, right? And tragically, he did not pick me up at the hotel in the McLaren. He picked me up in the shitty ute. Where you've got to get a bucket and then put all the shit from the passenger seat into the bucket. That was my
every tradies ute I've ever met.
I got to see the McLaren. I got to see the boat. I got to walk past the swimming pool.
Yeah, you don't get to touch it though.
Yeah, but that's your branding. Nobody wants the builder who turns up in the McLaren. It's all branding, and you need to think about that with your website as well.
Yes.
Who are you to the? It doesn't matter what you do at the weekend. Who are you to these people Monday to Friday?
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be getting across. And again, going back to the point you were making earlier, that's how people can get out of their own heads about this stuff being complicated. You just need to be getting across who you are, because the plumbing stuff, the electrical stuff, it's probably gibberish to a lot of your clients, because they don't know anyway. They just think electricians do it all. So you need to explain what they don't know and get across why it should be you doing the thing that all electricians can do.
You know, the other biggest thing I think our tradies really struggle to learn and understand is that their clients don't know and they don't care. They just don't care. All they care about is getting the job done, finishing on time, cleaning up behind yourself, all of those things that we've discussed today. They don't care that your cat fell off the roof and you can't turn up to work today because you said you were going to be there. They don't
That's right.
care.
Yeah.
No.
And it's, often it's those little things that as business owners, that goes for any business owner, but for you listening to this, tradies, it's the little things that you take for granted. And Steve mentioned this earlier, you know, that the tidying up thing, you might do that just as a matter of course because that's how you are, but that could be one of the biggest deciding factors in whether you get the job over the guy who's, you know, 10 or 20% cheaper than you, because it's not always what we think people want. So
no, that's right. People will pay for things that you don't think they'll pay for. I mean, you go into any cafe and you see what people are willing to pay for. I buy my daughter's baby chinos. It's milk froth with some Milo on top of it, and you're paying actual money for it.
It's the shit they throw in the bin and they're selling it to kids.
That's it. I mean, there's a sushi shop near us, and obviously I live in the inner west of Sydney, so we live on nothing but sushi and caviar, right? But in this sushi shop, it's very popular with tradies. And I think to myself, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I've seen puberty blues. I know what Australia used to be like before my time, right? Were tradies having sushi for lunch? No, they weren't. So tap into that. Your clients will pay a premium for good.
Yes.
For rice and seaweed.
For rice, yeah. Tell them you'll bring sushi. Listen, I'm bringing sushi. You provide the soy. I'll be there at 7. We'll have a lovely sushi breakfast.
Oh my gosh,
the guys who worked on this house, because we bought it while it was being built, literally, we came in to do some fixing up after we'd moved in. You'd offer them a coffee from the Nespresso machine. No bloody way. They were going down to the cafe to get themselves a fucking latte.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have. There's no, let's have a brew, shall I put the kettle on? None of that stuff from my parents' generation.
No.
They wouldn't even have an espresso pod. They were going to the cafe.
No bogan coffee for our listeners, mate.
No, that's it. So you need to tap into that with your clients. They're not necessarily looking for cheap. They'll probably pay a premium. Like one of the parents at school's doing the kitchen at the moment. She's got 4 tradies in. They keep delaying it. They told her it would be finished by whatever date it was, but they didn't tell her that my definition of finished is you've left my house, the kitchen works, and I'm never going to see you again, right? Mm-hmm. That's finished, right? Mm-hmm. That's apparently not what they mean by finished. They mean, it'll basically be done, but the wiring, we didn't mean the wiring would be finished, and we didn't mean the water would come out of the taps. Oh, you've totally misunderstood. I don't know how. You must be very stupid. And that's all she talks about. So when you ask her about the kitchen, you don't get any, I can't wait, I'm really looking forward to cooking or having you around for dinner or whatever. Her whole thing is about when her bloody tradies will be out of the house.
Yeah.
And that's the impression they're leaving her with.
Yep.
That's the story she's telling everybody. Mm-hmm. So when anybody else goes to get a tradie, the first thing they're going to think when you walk through the door is you're going to lie to me about the finish date.
Yep.
Because that's the story they've just heard from somebody else. So again, if your website says, when I tell you it will be done, it will be done. There will be no variations unless you come in and decide you now want double thickness marble on the countertops. Well, of course, that's a variation. But other than that, there will be no variations, no pissing around. That's the stuff, because that's the horror story that everybody's heard. So if you address it up front, and this is how I do it, and we have a contract, and it's not a scrap of paper I pulled out of the glove box of my ute and went, it'll be $2,000. It all looks proper. People will pay a crazy-ass premium for it.
It's pretty rare that we find an absolutely honest price shopper. It's never the price. There's always another objection. It's so rarely the price. I feel like I've nodded my head off today.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering how I can ask my magical question that I always ask.
Well, just throw it out there. Be blunt about it, Warwick.
And it's not because, it'll be hard to come up with something. It's going to be hard
words
for Stephen to distill it down into just one thing. So my question, Steve, that I like to ask guests, because it makes me sound important and smart. is if you had 1,000 tradies in a room right now, what's just one thing you would like to share with them or tell them or plead with them to do?
The first thing on your website, so above the fold, nobody needs to scroll or whatever, should say what you do.
Boom.
If you do residential electrical work, I do residential electrical work. You think it's obvious? I did a website for a town planner. Her existing website, I shit you not, did not use the words town planner or town planning on any of its 10 pages. Literally, I said to her, she said, well, I'm a bit embarrassed to be a town planner. I said, well, bad news.
Crap.
Wow.
You are a town planner. So
Might need a career change.
you might need a career change. But literally, she'd managed to go for 3 or 4 years with a website that did not use the words town. And you will be amazed how many people don't just clearly say, what do I do? Who do I do it for? Because that's the other thing. You might do it, but I might not think I'm the right customer for you.
Yes.
So I was in a B&I group with an electrician in it, and I had got the impression inside the group that he didn't want my work, that he only wanted new builds, big projects, commercial hospitals, schools, etc. So I hadn't actually referred him my own electrical work. And then he said, we had a coffee, and I found out he did want it. But just the way that he'd positioned himself, I had misunderstood. So you need to be super clear because you don't know what work you're not getting because the potential customer has opened your website and maybe there's a big photo of your ute parked outside a hospital and I've got a house and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the wrong site. Bang, I'm flipping away.
Yep.
Do not underestimate how fast people will make a decision about whether you want them as a customer.
Yeah.
Good point.
So you need to cover both things, what I do and who I do it for.
Awesome, mate. So, Steve, that begs the question, mate, as we draw to a close here, what do you do and who do you do it for and how do people find out more about you?
Well, the website is Taleist, TALEIST.agency. And a lot of what we've been talking about today, I've got a download. So there's a big page on the website that you can go to and, get a lot of these tips. Including with videos. So if a lot of your listeners will be wondering what I look like now.
Well, now that they know that exactly, you're naturally muscular and don't need to go to the gym.
They'll be looking for the beefy
powerlifting
guy.
really worked for me. Like it's phenomenal. So,
But did you throw the weights?
I don't see any point in weightlifting if you're not going to throw them around.
I know it's the most satisfying part.
No, you pick them up and you drop them. So if you go to Taleist.agency/7 things, there's a whole load of tips. What we do is we help people who already have traffic to their website. So you've got visitors coming to your website, but you want more of them to pick up the phone. That's what we do for people.
Love it.
Awesome, mate. Now, are you on social or anything, parading your muscles around?
Look, we are on Facebook, but we're totally shit on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. So if you go to facebook.com/Taleist, we're there. And if you go to YouTube, it's youtube.com/Taleist TV, because that's not a pompous title, which is just lots of videos of me saying essentially the same shit that you've been hearing for however long we've been talking.
Your YouTube channel's going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get a phone call from YouTube going, I don't know what it is, mate, but you are the Justin Bieber.
Stop it. You're melting our servers.
I'll be discovered.
Can we throw some money at you, please?
Well, I just love the fact that you use the word bullshit on your website.
Yes.
Yeah. I can't stand it. Like, that is my mission, ridding the world of bullshit, like one sentence at a time. That's a good day for me. I just love it when a client has got a website that is just so full of shit. And then you clarify it and they're like, oh my God, like, because they don't know what it sounds like to express yourself clearly until somebody's done it for them. And like,
yeah.
Because, just to keep this podcast going a bit longer, because no one has got a life. My job is to give you something that you can say at a barbecue comfortably about yourself. Like all that shit, I'm the leading electrician in Toowoomba. Nobody would say, if you went up to somebody at a barbecue and said, what are you doing? I'm the leading electrician in Toowoomba. Nobody would say that, but they're happy to put it on their bloody website.
Yes.
But they're not actually really comfortable with it. I give you something that sells you that you are comfortable to say at a barbecue. That's what we do.
Nice, mate.
Love it.
Barbecue toned websites.
No, yeah. That's it.
You're welcome. All right, before I completely destroy your business credibility, Stephen, we'll wrap this up, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic chatting with you. I've lost track of how many nuggets there are in today's episode. Mate, we really appreciate your abundance. There you go. There's a fluff word for you. Giving your stuff away for free. By all means, listeners, go and check out Steve's website, Taleist, TALEIST.agency. We'll put the links to all that in the show notes. And if you've got any questions off today's episode, make sure you go and hit us in the Facebook group as well. Stick them in there, and we'll see if we can convince Steve to drop in and share some more words of wisdom in our group there as well. So, mate, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.